Hello, listeners to Alan Feldman's Infinite Potential podcast. Together, we interview business owners, entrepreneurs, nonprofits, and anyone who wants to make an impact to uncover our infinite potential in the areas of human development, business, marketing, and community impact. And so today I have with me Renee from Love Earth Cafe Bakery here on Staten Island. She has a very interesting history, which we will talk about today. She started off as a hairstylist in her early 20s, I believe, did that for a little bit, and then she got called um, to create the restaurant that she is a chef for now. And so we're going to be talking about that. It's going to be a little bit of an educational episode, talking about some topics of self-development, how how she got acquainted with the two other owners. Um, so let's go from here. Thank you, Renee, for being with me today.
Hi, Alan. Thank you for having me.
It's an honor to have you. Okay, so first, I want to talk about what type of person were you as a kid, and where did your career kind of lead you up until now?
So, as a kid, I was always a kind and compassionate soul, and I never thought that it would lead me down this path, but it led me to serving compassionate food because I care about animals, and it led me also to serve compassionate food because I care about people and their health.
Mm,
It is a service and a pleasure of mine, but I do like to bring awareness to the connection we have with food, our health, the environment, and how it's all linked in.
right. Could you actually elaborate a little bit on that? Um, Talk about the connection between food and how it kind of has a higher power associated with it.
Right.
If you could elaborate
So
on that.
just so just to simplify it, we've all heard the term "you are what you eat."
Yes.
So if you just look at it in that respect, you'll find that if you eat healthy food that comes from the earth without the pesticides, without being genetically modified, you'll be eating food that's basically like medicine, and it keeps you very healthy. Um, Also, the way we forage our food today has to be examined. For example, when you get meat from a local farmer, if you're a meat eater,
Right.
you would be getting a healthier cut of meat. You would be supporting a local farmer, and you wouldn't be getting all of the pesticides and the chemicals that they inject the animals with. And also, you wouldn't be contributing to any unnecessary pain that the animals have to endure during their life, so you could consume the meat, which isn't even healthy for you when you support that type of foraging.
Right. And is it fair to say that, and you mentioned the how we treat animals, right? Does that have an underlying effect on maybe how it translate? Like, does that kind of, I don't know how to put this, but does that kind of behavior translate into food quality, and how so?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because if you are aware of how some of the meat is handled, and you know
Hmm.
that these animals spend their lives in fear, in pain, and loaded with chemicals, you're eating their fear, you're eating their pain. It's embedded in their cells of their body. So if that's what you're putting into your body, maybe you'll take on what they've experienced, the fear and the pain. It keeps humans in a lower vibrational state to eat
Hmm.
meat that's not healthy.
Right.
Absolutely.
And one lesson that I kind of, even I kind of learned this recently, is that is the same kind of applies in other areas. So not just food, but what I've seen is, like, let's say a kid has like a predisposition to being anxious or being a fearful person in general. From what I've seen and kind of researched myself and seen research articles on, is that that kind of trauma and that fear passes on through the genes. Is that
Yeah.
fair to say?
Well, yes, in a way, yes, because
Hmm.
it becomes the programming of that person, and then they will pass that programming on to the next generation. So it does help when we treat ourselves and the animals with respect, and we
Yeah.
make ourselves the best we can be, of course we're going to pass that to our children. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's a very interesting lesson because when we can really understand that, it's kind of a signal for us to really understand that like if we want to be the best parents, right, that we kind of have a responsibility to break the cycle of the fear of the trauma so that we can be the best parents we can be and be the parents we were destined to be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Try to be as aware as possible, be the best person you could be, and then bring a child into the world showing them the right way. Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
So I want to dive into talking about, let's talk about living in general. Um, so I want to see your opinion on probably like the top, let's say, three things that ultimately stop us from living the best life that we can and achieving what we're kind of destined to achieve.
Hmm. Fear definitely gets in the way. Programming, and then not taking the responsibility to better yourself and believe in yourself.
Could you elaborate a little bit on programming?
What your parents told you,
Hmm.
what your grandparents told you, the conditioning that was passed down through many generations. That's what I mean by programming. Yeah. But at
Right.
one point, I believe that if every generation improves from the next, or at least I'd like to think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's something that I've definitely noticed, at least even now, we sort of have a higher consciousness that we're able to tap into. And
Yes.
um, obviously, we're in a really good place. I'm very optimistic about the future because
Me too.
I'm seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
We're going through major shifts, even now during
Major.
COVID.
Yes.
Um, and ultimately, it's going to wind up being really good in the future.
Yes, it will be. It will be. I
Right.
think a lot of people had some time to reflect on what was really important during the time that we had to stay home.
Mm-hmm.
And when you really think about it, if you have great health, which comes from mostly the food you eat,
Yeah.
you have love in your life, you don't really need much outside of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. You
Yeah.
don't need money when you're healthy and you're just happy with everything.
Well,
And
the money is a form of energy or
yeah,
currency. That's our means of trading.
yeah,
So, but there's an endless supply of energy, currency, or money if you tap into that.
yeah, right. Let's elaborate actually on that, the money equals energy concept,
Mhm.
and how that could help if we truly understand that, how can business owners use that concept um, to create the impact they want to create?
Well, I feel that if business owners offer something to people from their heart to make the world a better place, I believe that abundance will come with that because you're doing something good to help humanity. I think it goes hand in hand. I think if we're looking for money for other reasons, it's not as satisfying. I'm very much into cause and effect, which you might call karma,
Yes,
but
yeah,
doing good and then receiving that good.
right, absolutely.
Yeah.
And um, I mean, that's just a good lesson for life, obviously, with
Yeah.
everything. If you're focused on giving, the amount that you can receive is infinite because all of us have infinite amount to give.
Absolutely. And if you
Right.
hold on too tightly out of fear, that's exactly what the universe is going to give back to you.
Yeah.
But if you give freely and you trust that all your needs will always be met, that's what you're creating. It's like a vortex of energy that you're creating with your thoughts. So to
Yeah,
stay in
absolutely.
alignment with that is what we're looking to do. It's not always easy, but
Hmm.
that's the goal, to stay in alignment with what's right for you. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that caters to, um, and I'm going to make a nod to Deepak Chopra's his law of intention and desire,
Hmm.
because most of the time, and this is going back to talking about fear and love.
Hmm.
Um, what I see is that a lot of people have the intent, like even in business, their intent is to sell, to push, to get people in. Um, but what they don't realize on the other end of that is that desire comes from a lack of something, a lack of feeling like they're valued or that they're important or that they have love to give or something of value to give.
Everybody is different, you know. Some are coming from love and service, some are coming from fear and greed.
Mhm.
Everyone's on a different path. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
So elaborate, let's go back to Love Earth. And I want to talk a little bit about um, the science of veganism. You mentioned the alkaline diet, pH
Mhm.
of your stomach. Elaborate on that a little bit.
So, all of our diseases come from being inflamed, and acidic food causes inflammation. So naturally, we would be better off being more alkaline, or at least having
Hmm.
a balanced pH, which is your potential hydrogen in your body.
Yeah,
It's supposed to be at about a 7.4. A simple blood test could, or a saliva test could figure out what your pH is. And when we go too far off that 7.4, our body becomes very stressed, and it takes calcium from your bones, which causes osteoporosis, and it'll take magnesium from your muscles and draw on your different organs just to keep itself in balance. So the less acidic food we could eat, the less hard your body has to work.
yeah.
Naturally, when your body is working hard inside,
Hmm.
eventually you're going to see that on the outside. So it's that might be a little vain. We
Yeah,
want to feel good,
yeah.
but when you eat healthier, you'll be healthier inside, and it'll also reflect on the outside. So the alkaline food is mostly found in plants.
Hmm.
Not looking to convert the world to plant-based, but just saying that having a mostly alkaline diet is beneficial for your health.
Right. And what foods are in that category, just so our
Leafy
listeners can know?
greens, leafy
Hmm.
greens, most nuts, almonds are alkaline, walnuts are not. I mean, you don't want to get yourself crazy with it, but mostly fruits and vegetables. And lemons, Alan, even though they're
Hmm.
acidic, as soon as you
Yes.
put them in your mouth, they alkalinize. So even the acidic fruits are not as bad for you as, say, the acid from meat or any flesh food for that matter.
Yeah, right. And even when we look at different trends that we're seeing right now, like I think this is part of the microbiome movement, because obviously alkaline is good for the microbiome and kind of reverses the aging process as far as
Mm-hmm.
I've been researching.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like different trends we've seen, like having water with lemon before as the first thing as you wake up.
Yes.
Um, the different articles that we see around you should have a salad with every meal.
Mm-hmm.
Small things like that have a very big underlying cause to them.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to do this because to talk about this, because the more
Yeah.
educated we are, the more we can um, reverse the process of aging is
And
really
besides
possible.
that, yeah, absolutely. And you know, Alan, besides that, we're all connected through consciousness because we're all energy. So the better humanity is, the more it helps the rest of us.
Hmm.
So, and as we evolve, like you mentioned it before, we're
Yeah.
born with a higher consciousness now, and we're
Hmm.
all evolving. So naturally, we're going to want food that's photosynthesized by the sun. We're going to want that energy food because it's really fueling our soul, it's fueling
Yeah.
us physically, it's helping us to be healthy. So I don't believe it's a trend. I think it's here to stay. And I think
Yes.
as time
Yes.
goes on, you're going to see more people, if not eliminating meat, purchasing their meat from a local farm,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, one thing that I've seen, and obviously since I'm a marketer, I've seen this and researched this, is a lot of different like subscriptions are very popular now in the marketing world. I mean, literally, I think everyone's doing it, from really big entrepreneurs to anyone under sun, even on Staten Island, I've seen it. Um, a lot of people doing subscriptions for different farm raised meats
Mm-hmm.
that are proving very successful because they're actually really good for you. They keep your
Yeah.
body
Yeah.
healthy, and so I definitely see that as a trend that's coming up,
Yeah.
especially even
Absolutely.
with acid, like the acidity factor, also being a really big discussion right now. I think over the last year, it's been really discussed, um,
Yeah.
and so I'm very optimistic about it. So
Me
yeah,
too. Yeah, me too. Absolutely. And I think today more people are less impressed, or at least they're informed, that the genetically modified foods, which are like slicing the gene of a fish and a strawberry,
yeah,
and then you wind up with strawberries this big, that's not so impressive as maybe it used to be years ago. I think today people are looking for just more clean, organic, authentic food that's not been tampered with.
yeah. And the thing that that I've seen as like my parents are immigrants, even like I knew this even before all this kind of talk started. But
Yeah,
if we look at Europe, in a sense, which has very different food regulation processes, like a lot of my friends go back home every summer, and they come back, and you see the noticeable difference in the size of the fruit as like one example, because
yeah,
that's something they always
absolutely.
bring. Um,
Yes,
and
yeah,
it's I think that in itself is like proof enough that
mhm,
something's going on and that we should educate ourselves. We might
absolutely.
not know why. I don't know why,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
But
yeah. Our bakery has we have the bakery that's allergen friendly. So the basic allergies that most kids have, we avoid using them in our desserts.
mhm,
And the reason why these kids have allergies today is because the food is so sprayed and their bodies can't process it. It's just too much poison in one little vessel.
yeah,
So that's one of the reasons why we were inspired to do the bakery for these kids who can't have normal cupcakes or donuts. So we have a clear understanding of how our food is foraged and how it's
yeah,
affecting our health.
yeah, right. And I mean, allergies are a really big problem now because,
Yeah,
like, even with peanut butter and nuts are probably the biggest allergies we have now.
yeah, yeah,
Um, like it's kind of I'm confident we'll get to a point where we're actually educated about this and
yeah.
less people will have the allergies. But
Hmm.
as of right now, people can die from those kinds of allergies,
Oh, absolutely.
which
Yes, it's very scary for them if their throat closes up or they can't breathe. Yeah, it's serious. And we're very mindful of that at Love Earth. We do not
Mhm.
have one nut on the facility, no nuts on facility at all. We're very careful. And it's plant based, so there's no dairy on the facility.
Yeah,
So it's very safe for these kids to have their desserts.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I wanted to see how, so talk about you and the three owners. So how you kind of got together, and when did all three of you kind of decide that you were going to open Love Earth, and what was the process behind it?
Okay. I believe it was our destiny. I don't know if we decided or if it was just the destiny that we
Yes,
come together. But
absolutely.
so one of my partners is Nicole Girardi, and her son has severe allergies, and she always wanted a bakery where her child could eat and all the other kids could eat without worry.
Yeah.
So Nicole brings her passion for the allergen-friendly bakery to the establishment. Danielle DeLillo, she's my other partner.
Mhm.
She mastered the baking. So she's responsible for all the delicious desserts. And she also owned Dominic's Cafe and Bakery. So she has 20 years experience in the business. She's a tremendous asset. I'm blessed with her, and Nicole as well. And my experience comes in where I've been a plant-based chef for some time. I'm a published author. I wrote about energy and veganism, and it is my passion to cook compassionate food. I believe in it 100%, and I was meant to do this. So I come in with the food. I'm the chef of Love Earth. So
That's
the three of us shared our vision, and together we're helping people through ingestion.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
And how long have you been kind of going cooking even at home?
I've been cooking my whole life
Hmm.
at home, probably since I'm 12. I've been cooking a long time, but I started cooking plant-based and entering cooking competitions, I would say about 15 years ago.
Hmm.
That's when I started my journey.
And
Yeah.
how many in total have you entered and won?
I won every one that I entered, at least in my category. And one
Hmm.
time I entered and I won the overall prize. I hope that doesn't sound like I'm bragging, Alan, but I'm being
It does
honest. I,
not.
I won every competition. Um, I think because I cook with my heart. I think because I really believe in it. Yeah. It was
Uh,
just local cooking competitions.
yeah. And I
Yeah.
think that's a really good lesson for everyone. If you're guided by letting love lead you,
Yes.
everything will come to you. Um,
Absolutely. Listening to your heart, not so much your mind,
mhm.
but listening to your heart and what do you feel is really right? Not your fear, not your mind. What do you feel is right for you? And that's where your answers are.
I want to go talk a little bit about that concept, heart and mind. So let's make this like an educational piece. How can we distinguish the two? Um, and what actionable steps can we take as, I mean, for my listeners, what steps can they take to really go closer to their heart? And also why is the heart the way to go and not a little bit of the mind, but fully heart?
I do think you have to use your mind after you listen to your heart, of
Yes.
course. But if you're not coming from fear, if you're coming from trust, if you're coming from belief, if you have some sort of faith and it feels right, and you're not listening to the ego talk you out of things or tell you you can't do things, if you're listening and you feel led to go into a certain direction, you have to
Mm-hmm.
follow that. And you
Yeah.
can't let fear cripple you. And sometimes when we overthink, I think we tend to get in our own way.
Right. And
We know the path. We all, I believe we all know the path that's set out for us. We just have to trust it and
mhm.
go on it. Just keep going with faith and positive actions and attitude. Yeah.
And how can we distinguish? So, what I've seen, and this is based on personal kind of looking at my thoughts, um, what I've seen, the difference between heart based thinking and then ego based thinking is that typically heart based comes first. So,
Mhm.
it's like, let's say you're at work, you hate your job, you see something that calls you, but you don't entirely trust it just yet. It feels really good to you, right? The first voice is based on faith. It says, imagine if you quit this job, and then you kind of get smiley, you get really happy, you start thinking about the possibility of that and what could come after. And then the other voice, from what I've seen, is the ego,
Mhm.
which is all the reasons why you can't,
Yeah.
right? And I think most people go towards that voice because, and I recently saw someone who talked about it. He said, with the ego, the only reason you go with your ego is because you can measure what you'll lose, but not what you'll gain, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so your heart wants you to just move forward, but it can't give you evidence because it hasn't happened yet,
Right.
right? So it wants you to just go based on faith. But then the other voice is just telling you,
Yeah.
oh, but you're not going to get money,
Hmm.
or oh,
Yeah.
you're not going to be able to find a job afterwards.
It could feel like a battle to stay in alignment with trusting your journey. It could be a battle
Mm-hmm.
between your heart and your head.
Yeah.
But if we just get quiet and go within our hearts and just get clear and quiet and trust and say, if this is meant for me,
Mm-hmm.
someone will come along, a stepping stone will be there. Like I mentioned, the path is set out. We just have to keep going on it and
Yeah.
trust it. If we come from fear
Mm-hmm.
and, oh my God, there's not enough and it's not going to happen and I'm stuck, then if that's what we're creating, we're going to stay in that. The picture your thoughts, like I'll give you this quote: man's
Yeah.
mind mirrors a universe that mirrors man's mind. So whatever your thoughts are,
Mm,
the universe is going to boomerang it right back to you.
right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we could practice, maybe through meditation or yoga, or you mentioned that you like to read Deepak Chopra, or whoever could help us on our path,
Yeah.
just so we could become trusting and clear and work with the universe or God or whatever you want to call it to bring us on our path with trust.
Yeah, right. And that is a very difficult thing to do. Um, but I think we can both agree that it's realistically the best way to go if what you want is to be the best person you can be,
Yeah,
to achieve what you were destined to achieve.
absolutely. And I don't know if we always have a choice because, we're here to evolve. That's literally
Yeah.
why we're born. We're here to
Yes.
grow and evolve and expand our soul.
Mm-hmm.
Expanding is very uncomfortable, but that's how we grow.
Yes.
Um, what you need will be there on your path. Who you need, what you need, you'll always have your needs met. The hardest part is to stay in alignment and believe that, especially when things come up, such as
Yeah.
fear or certain circumstances, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
But staying in alignment is the ideal thing. Just stay in alignment and trust, and you will get synchronicities, those stepping stones. You'll be led to where you belong next. And best not to fight it because the universe is going to push you anyway,
Mm-hmm. Right. Because you never know where you'll go, but you'll definitely end up where you need to
where
be.
you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Um, okay, so let's go a little bit further. I want to talk about your book.
Okay.
What is it? What is it about? All that.
So my book, it's called Heal the Planet, Heal Your Soul. The subtitle is Awaken Through Veganism.
Mhm.
And it's a book on food and energy. And energy is a language of the universe. So basically, I talk about how food helps us physically, it helps the environment, it helps with the spiritual purification. And I just go into detail about the cause and effect relationship that we're witnessing with our food and the animals and the environment and all the ecosystems and how it's all tied together.
Mhm.
That's what my book is about.
That's amazing. Um, what do you hope to accomplish? Um, Actually, a different route. So I watched a video from the Amazon, the interview you did, I forget with who,
Mm-hmm.
um, where you kind of talked about the Hmm, how am I trying to say this? That everything seems to have a higher power to it, especially food.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I kind of want to talk about your opinion on how how food does bring us away from ourselves and creates kind of addictive patterns within ourselves, if that made sense.
I'm not too clear on the question.
Um, Yeah, actually, I don't know how to properly phrase it. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so I still want to talk about the book. So obviously, you mentioned the subtitle was veganism, but what's the title again? Just so
Yeah, heal
yeah.
the planet,
Mm-hmm.
heal your soul. And the reason why I named it that, I
Yeah.
gave it that title, is because we are so tied in to the planet we live on energetically
Mm-hmm.
that what we do to her, we do to ourselves. If we pollute the air, it's going to hurt us. If our water is dirty, that's going to hurt us. If we poison the food and the land, that's going to hurt us. So what we do to her is absolutely what we do to ourselves. And we have to be mindful of our ecosystems,
Mm-hmm.
because if they tend to get dirtied up, it will have effect on us. Although the planet is much stronger than we are, before we destroy her, we'll destroy ourselves.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I want to talk a little bit about, um, so I want to stay on the topic of the title, Heal the Planet, Heal Yourself.
Mhm.
But I want to elaborate on, so I am really interested in that duality, right? So when I think about it, it's if you're not trying to heal and become your whatever your highest calling is in the moment, you're damaging the planet far more than you can realize, right?
Mhm.
Um, and and we see that even from like the intergenerational trauma that we have as parents, um, keeping the same old lessons that we've had from their parents and their grandparents and great grandparents and all that. Um, and so, based on that, I want to. It's I guess it's just a statement, but I think based on that, we kind of have a responsibility for
Mhm.
ourselves, um, to be our best selves at all times, so that everyone else can benefit. Because obviously,
Absolutely.
um,
Absolutely.
ev- everyone is a part of her planet. Um,
Mhm.
and so, if we're not doing our job to kind of go to our highest calling, to pursue whatever we're passionate about, to
Yeah.
go with our destiny, we're impacting a lot more than ourselves. We're impacting our family, our
Yeah.
community, our states, our countries, and the world far
Yeah.
more than we can even realize.
I think if we could participate in unity consciousness and be aware that we're all connected and lift each other up and show compassion to every being, people, animals, the earth, we'll
Hmm.
all benefit for it. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And could you elaborate on unity consciousness so everyone knows what it is?
So, so we're made of energy. You could
Yeah.
call it your soul, or you could
Hmm.
just call it energy.
Yeah.
And that ties us all together, whether we know it or not. So when collectively we all realize that we're one
Yeah.
and we see past, you could call it the third dimensional construct or past the 3D. If you look beyond that, we're all one. And if we could see each other as each other, we're less likely to want to cause harm,
Hmm.
you know,
Right.
and it'll make the world a better place. So by
Yeah.
unity consciousness, we're all one. We're all one in energy, perhaps in the higher dimensions, maybe not
Hmm.
down here, or maybe a lot of people don't realize that, but we're all connected through energy, all of us.
Yeah, right. And that's a good note to say even for like I just got a kind of an epiphany with like bullying, right? If we're constantly trying to judge others, realistically that's coming back on us.
Yeah,
Um,
because we see the world as we are. If we're judging, that's an inner struggle that we have to work on. We
yeah,
see
right.
the world as we are. If we're kind and at peace with ourselves, that's what we'll see in others. If we're struggling with ourselves, we're going to view people from our own struggle. But it's okay. We're all evolving at our own pace.
Hmm.
We're all getting
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. Um, okay, let me see what else we have. Okay, so let's go through some actionable steps of how we can go about healing our soul and getting to a place where we understand who we are intrinsically.
So I would like to say, Alan, that yoga is one wonderful practice or just one way to be able to quiet your minds
Mm-hmm.
and go within and just tap into that infinite wellness that you have within you.
Mm-hmm.
And when you tap inside of that, you're less likely to look outside of yourself for satisfaction because you won't be coming from a place of lack. So when you, I guess, meditate or do yoga or go within, then you're going to look at life a lot differently.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you'll have less purchases and less unnecessary wants, lack, I don't have, so I want, and you keep on accumulating. because
Yeah.
you'll find your happiness from within. So
Mhm.
maybe a yoga practice or a meditation practice or any practice, a prayer practice, anything that allows you to go within yourself and maybe just tap into your source. Again, it's different for everyone.
Mhm.
Divine, God, higher self, supreme being, however you want to call it. But when you get quiet and you connect with that part of you, it's infinite. So you won't tend to look for it outside of yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's um to me it's really simple to think about that. And you mentioned kind of getting silent, observing your thoughts. If we actually look at our thoughts, um, we can realize that we're not the ones actually creating them,
Exactly.
which
Exactly.
which is baffling because um I mean when we kind of like praise others for generating really creative ideas, they're not actually creating anything. They're just in a place where the ideas come to them and they just execute on it.
Yeah. It's in their life path. It's their life purpose to do that. But everyone serves their own purpose.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I'd like to share, Alan, that one time I
Mhm.
was listening to this monk speak, and he said that in Nepal, they
Mhm.
used to sacrifice animals for every birthday or celebration, and they were just killing and sacrificing animals
Yeah.
constantly. And when they had the great earthquake and they saw how many people died, they
Mhm.
made that comparison to the animals that they were sacrificing every year. They examined that and they said, just because we've done this for so many generations, it doesn't mean that we have to continue. So we can break the programs if they're no longer working. We're allowed to do that. And
Yeah,
that's the
right.
story. It stayed with me. I thought that was beautiful.
Yeah,
Thank God
right.
that we stopped some of the old programming. When you think back to the Roman Colosseum days, when we murdered people for entertainment, or you look back before we evolved to this point and you see how far we've come as humanity.
Yeah, right. And that's a really good lesson is if you're not willing to change, that's ultimately that's actually the worst that you can do for yourself because that change comes from your highest calling kind of telling you
Yes.
you have to go a different path,
Better off
right?
to go willingly with whatever's calling you. Go with trust. Don't go from fear because you're going to
Mhm.
stay spinning in the same cycles, and eventually you're going to have to break that fear, so you may as well face it head on.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
And it takes a lot of courage to do that.
it does. But even if you're a coward, when
Mhm.
the universe pushes you, you have to go.
Yeah,
Sometimes you don't have a choice, you
yeah.
know
Yeah, change is the only constant that we really have
yes, and things
at
change
every
whether we
moment.
like it or not. Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Right.
I believe it
Um,
was Oprah who said, God taps gently. God taps you on the shoulder gently. And then when you don't listen, you get the brick wall. So when you feel those taps, listen, get quiet and listen and go with trust. Absolutely.
oh, yeah, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, oh, okay. So let's make this another actionable step because I believe, I mean, we are all born with a purpose, right? And to try and, I don't want to say find it because you're not actually finding your purpose. It's just coming to you. You
Mm-hmm.
are purpose, so it just comes at you in every which way.
Mm-hmm.
How can people go about um, to reflect on what their purpose is and kind of stop the path of just going for the same old job or the same old thing that's just been ruling their life? How can we step into what our internal service is?
I feel that it's a natural occurrence. I believe it'll
Natural?
just happen at the right time. I think everything has a timeline, and when it's
Mhm.
your time to change something, it'll find you. You just have to follow the path, follow your life path, and when it presents itself, you'll know it. In Buddhism, there's a saying, you can't rush the river. I mean, I changed my career midlife.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know I was going to be doing this when I was 20 years old. It finds you at the right time. And again, not much thinking, just living and allowing.
Yeah. Just trusting that the universe is going to
Yeah,
give it to you.
yeah.
Oh man. Um, okay, so I want to go back to, let's say, childhood, right? You mentioned you were a hairstylist as the first profession.
Hmm.
Um, so from what I see from that is, well, what I want to know around that is, um, what type of person were you as a kid? What type of hobbies did you have? Um, and when was that decision made that you were going to be a hairstylist?
As a kid, I liked the outdoors.
Mm-hmm.
I like to exercise. I like to be free. I knew I didn't want to be in an office. I knew I wanted to be free to come and go. I don't like to be contained anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that being a hairstylist would take care of my creativity outlet. And it would also allow me the freedom to be in a fun, light environment as opposed to a stuffy,
Mm-hmm.
controlled office environment.
Right.
So I like the creativity. I like to be free, and I like to move around a lot. I don't like to sit still.
Mm-hmm.
So that led me to being a hairstylist.
Talk about the importance of trying to tap into our creative side and what the benefits of really going and doing something creative, even if it's as little as 10 minutes a day.
Yeah. When you find your passion, when you find your calling, when you find what you're good at,
Mm-hmm.
and you kind of lose yourself and you get into a zone while
Mm-hmm.
you're doing your whatever it is, whether it be working on cars or
Yeah.
building things out of metal or
Mm-hmm.
cutting hair or cooking food. When you find that zone, you almost put yourself in a meditative presence,
Mm-hmm.
and it's relaxing and it's satisfying and it's soothing and it's natural. You're not doing something that goes against your grain. You're doing something that is suited just for you. It's very rewarding. Absolutely, to find that creativity. We all have something. We
Mm-hmm.
all have it. We'll find it one way or another.
Yeah, right. And back to the topic of, I want to go another route of just educating our audience. So going back to what I said before with we are the observer of our thoughts, right? We can't be the observer of something and be the thing itself, right? But every time we're kind of going with our ego, we're actually saying that we are this thing, that we are lacking something, we are this way, we're not enough, we're not valued, we're not worthy, we're not contribution, we're not purpose, right? So, oh damn, I kind of lost it. Um, So when I see that kind of a connection with we are not our thoughts, um, I lost it.
It's
Oh no.
okay. It'll come back, or you could create something else.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I don't even remember. Okay, let's go to the next thing. Um, okay. So, oh, got it. Okay. So it was a lesson on infinite creativity. So obviously our thoughts come to us. We're not actively creating them. And so um and this is from the practice of visualization. And I want to see your opinion on this. Um, every day in the morning, what I typically do is I visualize the outcome that I'd like to have for the day and then for the rest of the week and for the year, right? And that kind of gets my body into a zone where it's already happened. And so you get ideas. Your body recognizes that it's happened already, but you just get ideas, get ideas, get ideas that will make that thing come true.
That is a brilliant way to manifest. Act as if it's here already. Feel as if it's here already. That's manifesting.
Mm, interesting. And why is that so effective? What's like the, I don't want to say science, but what's the kind of what makes it work, I guess.
Your thoughts create your reality. Fake it till you make it. Put it in the vortex. Abracadabra, I will create as I speak. It's part of your life plan that you tapped into and you know it's going to happen. So you just feel it, believe it, and allow it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a combination of all those things.
And that's what, after realizing that, I think it was probably like a year ago when I realized that, um, even the mindset of, and this is like the mix between believing you can achieve anything and just and and the very opposite of saying like I need to know this in order to achieve it. I have to have a plan for it. There has to be a strategy that I'm that I see, right? Um, and I think going back to faith, it takes a lot of faith to even go into that, to just tell our mind that this already happened, and then you just get answers out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I think that's a really good nod to who we are, um, as people, because that in and of itself is an extraordinary power that doesn't seem human, quote unquote. Um,
Well, when you say it doesn't seem human,
yeah.
I believe that if we trust that our higher selves and divine or destiny is helping to run the show,
Mm-hmm.
we'll be more in allowing, and it will just happen for us.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, whatever is meant to happen for us will. We
Yeah.
just have to be in trusting and allowing and being gentle with ourselves. There's no rush, there's no race. Again, there's no rushing the river. We'll all get to where we have to be at the time
Mm-hmm.
we're supposed to.
Yeah. Right. Um, and that's a really good nod to, if you feel like you need to be at a certain place, usually that comes, when you feel like you're lacking something, which ultimately isn't a good place to be, because that's based on fear of, I'm not valuable enough, or I'm not good enough, or whatever meaning you place along those lines.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yep.
okay, so let's talk now about, let's talk about judgment. Okay, and how, because I think that's probably the number one thing that we're kind of experiencing in the realm of parenting. I think is a really good lesson of compassion versus judgment. So I
Mm-hmm.
want to see, um, your opinion in terms of parenting, how we can get to a place where we're not judging our kids, but instead being compassionate and looking at it from their perspective, whatever it is that's going on.
Well, I'm not a parent, so I can't say that I've had experience in this area,
Hmm.
but I do know that children want to be loved unconditionally. And that's a tough one, Alan, because
Hmm.
there's a fine line between discipline of what is morally right and wrong and judging them in their choices in life.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. That's a
Hmm.
really tough one, and everyone has an individual path with that. I don't know if I want to touch that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know how to touch that because every parent and child has a different dynamic for the sake of learning
Hmm.
that their souls agreed to actually before they were born that they had to go through and understand. That's getting a little deep,
Yeah.
but it's a very personal relationship, and I don't think there's one size fits all. But at our core, we all want to be loved unconditionally. I mean, that's
Hmm.
at the core of everyone's essence, is that we all want to be loved.
Yeah. Absolutely. Um.
Yeah.
Oh.
You know, Alan, I want to say that as far as judgment is concerned,
Hmm.
I remember a friend of mine long ago, she said, not only do I not judge people, but I don't even judge myself. That would be my ego judging me. She's that compassionate, like even toward herself, that she's not going to judge herself in
Yeah.
any, you know,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
who are we
that
to judge?
and there is a balance with that. Obviously, if the more that you're actually judging yourself, the more you're going to judge others, and vice versa.
Yeah.
Everything exists in a balance.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Um, okay. Well, I actually think that's all the questions that I got. I got nothing else to really ask.
Okay. Can I mention something about the cafe?
Sure.
So I just wanted to share with you and your guests that
Mm-hmm.
Nicole, Danielle, and I are so honored to feed children these desserts that they could never have on Staten Island before we open. To see these kids happy is just a dream for us. We're thrilled. And we're also so proud that we're the first plant-based cafe on Staten Island. It's time that we have that here. All the other boroughs have plant-based cafes and options, and there's plant-based all over New Jersey, and we're happy that we're
Mm-hmm.
able to bring that to Staten Island. So we just want to share that.
Yeah, it's amazing. And just so our listeners know, where can they find um, Love Earth Cafe on social media, email? What avenues can they take to communicate with you guys?
So we're on Instagram. I have to look it up because I think
Mhm.
there might be some. Just want to make sure I'm okay. So on Instagram, we're love.earth.cafe.bakery, and the same is for our website,
Mhm.
love.earth.cafe.bakery. So that's it.